What is a nation, really? Only its people. They may go back a long way, but the British are above all things a contemporary people, living their lives with enthusiasm and zest and cheerfulness. Who are they?
Who are they, indeed? Whoever we are today, it seems that our connection with our ancestors is fading all the more. It's quite sweet in a way watching this old footage with its jaunty music. However, I'm sure that the powers that be in this day and age would see it as some fascist document of the past. How dare they insinuate that being British has anything to do with Britain as a nation? Now, I don't mean to sound like a smarty pants, but I did say a few videos back that this issue of identity is going to be the key one of our generation. It doesn't take Einstein to figure out that the issue of identity is rising up again because the British, as well as the rest of the European people, are becoming minorities in their own towns and cities. Throughout the latter half of the 20th century, we had the luxury to be comatose towards the issue of identity, and that's of course because the European peoples were largely completely dominant in their own home countries. Yes, there was growing migrant populations, but that only really affected the hard-up and the working class people, and remember, the liberal elite think they're disgusting, and it's a good thing they're getting eradicated anyway. Yet the problem is that mass migration is now so high it's affecting everybody. Just go to your local A&E and have a look around and you'll see what I mean. Now even the average centrist dad is starting to question what on earth is going on here and whether a Somalian who rocked up on a boat from France yesterday is just as British as someone whose family have been here for thousands of years. Now such people have been held in line for decades now with violent outbursts from the mainstream that they're fascist, that they're evil, that they're going to create a genocide if they continue to think that way. Now when you times that with the relentless pro-diversity and inclusion marketing we've endured for, well, decades now, it's enough to keep the normies in line, but reality has a funny way of sneaking in, much to the chagrin of the modern liberal.
Randy, we've got a problem. What? Reality's here. He's trying to crash the party. Reality? Who let him in? Shit! Nice wine, huh? What do you think of that? You know what I think of your pretty flowers? There you go. How do you like that?
Now in that brilliant episode of South Park, the townspeople end up hanging the personification of reality because they want to live in their liberal delusion. They don't want to see that they're actually destroying the world with their utopian beliefs. And this is, of course, a brilliant parody of the Western world, and we see this going on all the time. Elon Musk is a good example. He's waking up to reality very slowly in a rather haphazard way. The liberal demon is still very much alive in him, as evidenced by the H-1B visas, but you can see he is starting to figure things out.
I mean, if you took the people of Italy and you teleported the people of Italy to, say, some part of the United States, it would still be Italy. But if you teleported a bunch of people from some other part of the world to Italy, where they're telling people no longer because they've been teleported to America, then the region, the geographic region, would no longer be Italy. It would be that other country.
Now this is just common sense, and everybody thought this way up until the advent of liberal modernity. You know, Japan is the way it is because of Japanese people. They're inventive and interesting, good for them, they've got a good culture. Yet the powers that be, as represented by Blair's attack dog Alistair Campbell here, think very differently. He states Musk's comments are embarrassing on so many levels. I'm not quite sure what point Campbell is trying to make here. I mean, does he and other liberals really believe if you took the population of Japan and swapped it with the population of Eritrea, that Japan and Eritrea would look exactly the same in 10 years as they did before? I actually find that worldview very disrespectful to unique peoples and unique cultures who have built their ways of life over thousands of years. We're not all interchangeable cogs. Ironically, people's unique cultures is what makes the world special. It's actually diverse. Yet the powers that be don't think this way. This is an image that greets you when you're picking your bags up at Heathrow. Imagine all those international travellers landing in London and seeing that the representative is an Arab man dressed in Arab garb. Of course, the powers that be will think that it's disgusting and racist to have British people symbolising, British culture and Britain. However, if I was going to Japan and I saw this, I'd think it's sad. I'm here to learn about the Japanese and their way of life. Yet, as I say, it does seem that more and more Westerners are waking up to the liberal delusion we've been suffering from. While we've strived to live in this post-racial society centred on equality, other groups who've come here don't really think like that in the Western world. This was evidenced recently by this case in America of an Austin Metcalf. He was stabbed while trying to remove a young black lad from his seat. His dad has been all over American media saying this isn't a race issue, he's forgiven the killer and so on. Yet when you look up black social media, you'll see that they're not exactly taking it the same way. They very much do think it's about race. They think that Austin Metcalf was the aggressor, he wasn't by the way, and that the young black lad Carmelo Anthony had every right to stand up and stab Austin Metcalf in the heart. A quick language warning, because this lady does have a bit of a potty mouth.
And to be honest with you, I blame Austin motherfucking parents for not teaching him not to bully and mistreat people just because they skin color. Okay? We wouldn't even be having this conversation if y'all didn't push that white privilege shit on your son. And you clearly see that they've been bothering that boy for him to be walking around with a pocket knife. They had to been bullying him, and he was tired of that shit. People get tired of being bullied. You think kids just walk around with pocket knives for nothing? No, he was tired of Austin and fucking with him.
Just get away. Because there's no fixing this.
Oh, and by the way, after all the outrage videos on Black Twitter, they've raised $160,000 for Carmelo Anthony now. That was 4 days ago, by the way, so it's probably closer to $200,000 at this point. But remember, people like me are the real bigots. Everything's perfectly normal in America, despite in their shops having to have labels stating things are black-owned or Hispanic-owned, so people can make sure they don't buy products made by white people. Again, post-racial society for thee, but not for me. Yet things aren't much better over here in the UK. Here's a Muslim preacher in Manchester stating that it's okay to take sex slaves as the result of war.
Accept any slave girls you may own. That is, those who have been captured in war. If a disbelieving woman who's married is captured in war, she becomes permissible for the Muslims after one menstrual cycle has passed, which serves to establish that she is not pregnant.
Now, you could say that I'm cherry-picking clips here and most Muslims don't think this way, and I'm sure that's true, but the problem is you do get quite a few Muslim preachers saying crazy things like this. I mean, can you find me one Christian preacher saying things like that in the whole of the UK? Scratch that, the whole of Europe. Yet we're supposed to believe that fellas like this, with their backgrounds, their religion and their opinions, are just as British as someone like me, Jack Charlton, or a full English. Although not a full English, because that contains pork and that would be halal, so that's a bigoted breakfast that's not welcome in inclusive modern Britain. On the subject of food, it's one of those things liberals love to harp on about, as if our food has always been absolutely awful and the rest of the world has taught us how to cook. Well exemplified by this tweet recently that did the rounds: white people will be a minority by 2050. Oh no, food might get more flavourful on average. The horror! I mean, do these libs really believe that the only change that comes from flooding your countries with migrants from the third world so you're a minority is food is going to be more spicy? Yet as I say, this is all part of the liberal mythology collapsing, well exemplified by this meme. As you can see, we have the beginning of time, things improve a bit with Rome, and then Christianity's on the scene, everything's absolutely terrible, and then modernity comes and we have anal sex, John Allen's Imagine, and Richard Dawkins. And you may have noticed the one as well where you get neo-communists trying to denigrate the Western world by promoting more socially liberal countries. Here is a tweet from a very prominent neo-communist account. They state that Denmark is better than the USA in every way. Denmark has free healthcare and free college. Its minimum wage is $25 an hour and people only work 35 hours a week. Denmark is the happiest country in the world. Could anybody think of why Denmark enjoys such luxuries? Could it be that it's full of, I don't know, other Danes? Yet when we get the World Happiness Report for 2025, many in the top 10 are clearly ethnically homogenous, yet they have to use a multicultural family on their marketing materials. You can see here a ginger guy with a Muslim wife and a hijab. But remember, we must always hold to the liberal message at all times, no matter how deluded it is, lest you be a bigot. Just ignore the fact that now police are finally raiding Turkish barbers and vape shops that have been cropping up on our high streets like a plague in recent years. Remember, it's racist and evil to notice things, especially if it goes against the liberal regime's rhetoric, just as it's evil to notice that people smugglers are sharing videos of scantily clad women on nights out in the UK to try and lure more migrants over. Now, I know this can all be infuriating, and we feel like those poor, what look like grandparents working for the Royal British Legion trying to sell some poppies in Victoria Station in London as they get swamped and surrounded by Gaza and Palestine protesters. But as I keep saying, anger isn't the answer here. Hating immigrants isn't the answer here. It's not really their fault. They're just being used by the globalist elite. In fact, the whole liberal system depends upon people getting outraged and mad and acting in crazy ways. So then the liberal system can point its finger and say, see, these people are just full of hate, they're violent, they're angry, they want a genocide, they're just like Hitler, you know. And then this scares off the normies. But it seems to me millions upon millions of Westerners are starting to see through the liberal system, and they're desperate to be told it's okay to be anti-mass migration, it's okay to be anti-multiculturalism and admit that it's gone wrong. You don't have to hate anybody, you can still appreciate the Vedic tradition in Indian culture, you can still learn about Sufism or Shintoism in Japan. Now, it's only by doing this that, in my view, we'll stand a chance at getting back in touch with and realigning with the beautiful, peaceful, quiet and moving heart of Britain. From this stance, deeply rooted in tradition and focused on well-being, we will start to see, as Peter Hitchens has stated for many years, that the real radicals have always been the Blairites. They're the ones who've caused this revolution and pushed this illusion on the rest of the Western world. Anyway, that's enough from me today. If you are interested in spiritual and personal transformation, do check that out down below on the new channel. Do check out the Substack if you want exclusive content as well, and do consider subscribing to this channel if you're new. Have a great rest of the day.